Well, thank you all for being here this evening. I will mention that it's been a public hearing in order for the board to hear the concerns of Lane County citizens regarding the 2012 National Defense Authorization Act, as codified in 10 U.S.C. 801. The section of the federal code clearly is interpreted by some to allow for the indefinite detention without trial of United States citizens in certain cases. With that, we conclude the public testimony, and at this point I will open the floor to discussion by the board of directors.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, assembled citizens, for coming in and testifying this evening. I'm really glad that as a result of the letter I had originally written on this topic, that we moved to a discussion of this, and that led to this public hearing and the presentation you heard this evening. So first and foremost, I want to thank the board for continuing to move this along and give an opportunity for the public to testify. I'm not going to reiterate all the things that were said tonight, but I would like to make a couple of quick comments. The first is the camps that were set up during World War II that the last speaker spoke about. Those camps were of course, mostly in the West, but some of those camps were as far east as Arkansas. And you had the awkward situation where Americans of Japanese descent would be taken from only the Pacific Coast states, Oregon, Washington, California at the time, and they would be transferred inland. So that might be Tule Lake, California, it might be in Idaho. But ironically, Americans of Japanese descent in intermountain communities were not sent to camps. So some of those folks had their farms taken away from them in Sandy, Oregon, and shipped all the way to Arkansas. And as incredible as this sounds, this took place, in the lifetimes of people in this room. And if you want to see a current example of some way to remember this intrusion on the rights of Americans, you can go over here to 6th and Willamette. We're at 8th and Oak, so that's about 2-3 blocks away. And there's a place where you can actually read the names of the camps. You can see the names of the people from Oregon that were taken to these camps. So it's a good reminder that this has happened in the lifetimes of people right here. Secondly, I want to thank whoever brought up the Charter Review Commission, because Lane County does have, and the voters of Lane County put in their charter, a review of Lane County's charter, the basic laws that we go under. And this issue of an unconstitutional federal law and how does local government respond to that is an important area that ought to be studied by this Charter Review Commission. I think that the testimony tonight is that we should move ahead with a resolution, writing up a resolution that we do oppose these sections of the National Defense Authorization Act that really have nothing to do with the defense of our nation. And I think we ought to make it clear, not only to Congress that we oppose that, but also, and want it repealed, but also to the Oregon legislature, because they, like all of the other legislatures, also can comment on federal legislation. And for the more difficult part, and that is the ordinance idea, that this board and the people of Lane County can enact ordinances for the operation of our government and Lane County's government, and that ordinances apply to the people in Lane County, but also to the government of Lane County. And this raises a really interesting problem, and one that I think we should pursue with our ordinance, and that is, well, you got the federal law, and there's a lot of cooperation between the federal government and local law enforcement and local prosecutors and federal prosecutors. There's a lot of cooperation. Generally, that's a good thing. But what if one branch of government, one type of government, is trying to enforce its laws when those laws are unconstitutional and when the people in Lane County, through their elected government or through initiative, have passed their own law? And I think that you saw this in the case of the city of Portland. They weren't taking some of the policies of the federal government for detaining certain people, and they actually passed policies, I don't know about ordinances, but policies that said the police are not going to participate and they're not going to cooperate when involved with this illegal power that the federal government's trying to assert over us. So I do think we should move forward on the ordinance. I'll also say in conclusion that, you know, we started here say 11 hours ago roughly. So you're talking to some tired people up here, and I've heard a lot on this. I really want to thank everybody for coming, testifying, and I'll be happy to keep working on this. And we really need to remember that partisan politics is part of our system, nonpartisan politics is part of our system, and defense of our Constitution is something that virtually all Americans agree in, and I'm glad we're all here tonight.